I'm ready to start mixing my grout. My second wash. Okay, here I am back the next day. Do one diagonal wash on here. Okay, so I get a question sometimes about how to grout. So today, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be using some grout. The grout I'll be using today is Mapei FA cement-based grout, and I have porcelain tile here, 12 by 24s with about an 1/8 to 3/16 grout joints. And I'm gonna grout this thing in. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it from the first step of mixing the grout. And a new thing with this FA is that they don't want you to let it slake, so mix it up. You can go right to work right away. You don't have to let it slake and then remix it. So do one good mix on it and then start grouting. For here, I don't need that much, only a couple pounds if that. So I'm gonna mix up the grout and we'll go from there. This might be an obvious thing, it might not be, but you always wanna have yourself a clean bucket of water, a good sponge. You don't want one that's all torn up. The better looking the better. I have a sponge that's slightly stained here from grout, from a previous job I did with black grout. So rinse it out real good, because if you use a brand new sponge, it's going to stain and ruin that, and you won't be able to use it for anything else. So I'm just going to use one I have here. I rinse it out real good, got clean water, and I have a specialized grout bucket that I use here for dark grouts. Then I have one over here for lighter grouts, and I just got these, and you know, I mix up grout. You never really need that much grout at one time unless you're doing a big commercial space. I usually just do bathrooms, so that's all I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up the grout and go from there. Okay, I'm ready to start mixing my grout. The really good thing you want to do here is have a vacuum attachment, and they call this a whale tail. There's many different products on the market that do something like this or similar. You suck up the dust. You really don't want to be breathing in, you know, any type of dust, especially, you know, most of these cement-based grouts are maybe with a lot of silica, and you know, it'll give you silicanosis and all that stuff in the future. So you know, keep it to a minimum. Vacuum up, work clean. You thank yourself. You thank yourself for in the future. So I'm gonna hook up my vacuum first, like I have here, and then I'm gonna add my water. So you always want to put a little bit of water in the bottom of the bucket so you don't have any dry particles. Then start mixing. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're good to go. See consistency there. A little bit on the stiff side, and that's what I want on the floor. It's a small bathroom floor. I don't want to be waiting for this forever for this to dry, but this will be good for most scenarios. So not loose, it's not dripping. It kind of falls off the trowel, kind of like a peanut butter. I'll give you kind of a closer up. You can see that looks like. Let's start grouting. Okay, so I got my grout float, nothing special, just regular float. I already wiped down the floor. I vacuumed it, I wiped it down, making sure everything is clean as I can get it. Grout this bad boy in. Now we'll be having white grout on the wall, so I want to try to stay off the wall as much as I can, so I'm not cleaning the hell out of them, you know. This is a rapid setting grout, so it's going to dry pretty quick, and from my experiences in the past, it does dry quick, but you don't want to wash it too early, so you get some pinholes in there. So I'm going to grout this whole thing in and get a look at it. You want to really keep an eye on it. There's a certain time that you want to wash, and a certain time you don't want to wash. So essentially you want it stiff enough that when you put your finger on it, it doesn't transfer to your finger. That's how you know when it's ready to wash. If you wait too much longer than that, you're going to be scrubbing like hell to get it off there. It's going to be a real pain. Now, if you go too early, what's going to happen is you could potentially wash the joints out. And when I say wash the joints out, meaning that they're a little bit low, you want to try to get them as flush as you can with the top of the towel. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, flush as you can within reason. So I'm just going around Pack the joints good, especially in the corners. In case there's no mortar under there, you want to make sure that the tiles are completely supported. No voids anywhere. The more you get off the tile now, the faster and easier it'll be to clean when you're ready to start washing. Now it's pretty warm in this room. I got baseboard heat right behind me. So I'm not going to wait too long on this, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. And see what happens here. Now, the whole thing, everyone thinks grout's real easy. Well, it's not too difficult, but if you ruin the grout, if you do a bad grout job, it can ruin a good tile job. So take your time, make sure you got the proper materials, doing everything the manufacturer wants you to do. Mix it good. Let it slake if it needs to slake. Pack the joints good. But then I'll show you as I'm going along here when I'm washing. You don't want too much water in this sponge. You want it wringing out good. You don't want it to be having it dripping all over the place, because the more water you have in the cement, it's going to make it weaker, right? So you want to keep that to a minimum. That way you have nice strong grout installed here. So get as close as I can onto this baseboard heat. Really, when we need that much grout off this floor. Small section here. Make sure I'm packing these joints well. This floor is almost ready to be washed already. You can tell when the grout changes on the surface, it's starting to dry. So I'm almost ready to wash it now. Okay, we're ready to start washing. There's a section here. It's minimal transfer. So I'm going to start washing this floor. So I'm going to go gentle with the sponge. Not going to go crazy. So I take my sponge, and take it, squeeze it, just twist it, okay? Twist it. Twisting, that does the work for you. Now I got a nice, see it's not dripping? Nothing. This thing is good to go. Okay, ready to wash now. Just gave like another 5-10 minutes.
Amount of.
Good to go. So you really want to take a look at the tile, make sure you got nothing left on the surface, make your joints nice and smooth. I'm kind of just going in a circle pattern here, and that'll prevent you from digging out the joints. Sometimes I go straight across them when I have to shape them up like this. One's go that way once. Now it's nice and smooth. It doesn't have like a rough texture to it. It's really smooth looking joint. That's what you want. You want it to look good. That's the whole point of this. Make it look good. And the longer you let it dry, the fuller the joints are going to be. But at the same time, it's going to be harder to get the grout off the surface. You really have to have a good eye on it. Okay? Don't let it sit too long. Don't wait. There's just a fine line between washing too early and washing too late. One thing I can tell you to help you is that when you're washing, don't press too hard. Press down a little bit. But don't press too hard. Let the sponge do the work. Now, I'm not just doing the joint once and done. I'm working it. I'm working the joint, see? I'm working the joints, making them look good. I'm not just doing one pass on them, okay? This is how you get the remaining stuff off the surface, by agitating it. Okay? Making the joints look good. It's a skill. This is not something that you can just try and get amazingly the first time. This is a skill. Get as close as I can over here, within reason. When the grout does dry on the surface, you just gotta agitate it. Basically, by getting it wet, it's gonna loosen it up again. So I just wet this surface. I'm gonna wash my sponge. Come across it again, and see it just loosens it right back up, brings it right back to life. So if you get a section that's kind of, stuck to the tile, go over it, wait 10-20 seconds, let that water get on it, and it'll kind of loosen it back up, ready for you to wash it again, okay? This grout is pretty dry over here, but the cedar edge for sure. Get it clean around the door jambs. I see a lot of guys do door jambs and they just look like a pile of grout. So you want to look clean around there. Get your wedges, your knife, whatever. Just clean it up. Make it look good. That's why people do tile, right? They do it because it looks nice and it lasts a long time. So if the tile is not going to last a long time, it's not going to look good. Why would someone want to do it? It's the most expensive flooring you can do. But like I said, if things are done right, everything came out good, you're talking 50 years out of install. So I don't see many people complaining about getting the value out of tile, okay? High value. You pay up front, but you save in the long run. So really, it's the most cost-effective, hygienic flooring. I mean, why do you think it's in all bathrooms? It's hygienic. The only thing you got in there that's a maintenance thing will be the grout, and that can last you a good 20 years. So at some point, you're probably gonna have to re-grout. But for the most part, you're good for a long time. Just cleaning this up. I'll let that haze over for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna go over everything, make sure the joints are looking good. Do one diagonal wash on here, and we'll be good to go. Now for my second wash, do more diagonal, and as I'm going through, I'm making sure the joints still look good. Okay, we want to make sure that we're not no rough spots, no voids, nothing like that. Okay, this is where you're really dialing it in. Do one pass on each side of the sponge. We got a clean sponge. One side, just like that. Now's the time to fix it, guys. Don't think it's better to come back the next day and touch it up. Why not fix it now when I got a grout sitting right here? Scrape it out, take the 1 minute to do it, and you're good to go. Now when I'm walking across the tile now, I'm just walking on the tile itself, not the joints. Don't want to mess them up after all this work we just did. Okay, so that's all she wrote. That's 2 washes on here. I'll come back tomorrow. We'll get a microfiber cloth, some water, and some vinegar, and we'll do a final wash in here. Make sure it's nice and clean, but as far as right now, that's it. Close-ups here. See the grouts. nearly flush. Nearly flush there. Okay, here I am back the next day, ready to wash this floor with a final wash. I got some water and put a little bit of vinegar in here. So I'm going to do a final wash, show how I go about that. Okay, so just got a standard microfiber, nothing special, some water and some vinegar, a little bit warm water if you can, doesn't have to be, but doesn't hurt. Dip my microfiber in here. Squeeze it out good. I'm just going to fold it up. And I'm kind of just going to buff this thing out. Get all the remaining haze off of this. See how much this came off right there, see? Definitely a good amount. All I gotta do is flip over to the other side, flip it around, wash it off.